The first time I saw him was by accident. It was one of those chaotic first weeks of the school year. New schedules, new teachers. I was running late to pick up Anne from aftercare, half my brain in emails, the other half wondering what I was going to make for dinner. I pulled into the parking lot a little too fast, still on that autopilot mom mode. And then I saw him. His arms were the first thing I noticed. He was walking toward the aftercare building back to me, holding his phone in one hand. Strong forearms, veins, tan skin, the kind of arms that make you imagine doors being opened, boxes being lifted, boaties being that kind. Then he turned slightly to go up the stairs and I saw his shoulders. The way his t-shirt stretched across his back. I literally said out loud, "Wow." My face got hot so fast I opened the visor mirror just to check if I was actually blushing. Of course I was. Red cheeks, messy hair, tired eyes, classic housemom look. I grabbed a lipstick from the console like it was a life-saving device. Did a quick swipe, shook my hair loose from the sad little clip it was trapped in. I tried to wake up the version of me that existed before snack bags and PTA meetings. Before I continue, tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? And don't forget to subscribe. These stories only get hotter. When I walked into the school, he was inside already, standing there in the hallway, looking down at his phone. Up close, he was even more dangerous. Dark hair, strong jaw, that casual stance men have when they know they look good without even trying. So I did what any self-respecting, slightly desperate married woman with a pulse would do. I pretended not to look at him. I walked in, said a loud, overly friendly hi to the aftercare coordinator, hoping he'd look up. He didn't. Not even a flicker, just thumbs scrolling on his screen. So I took up a spot in the hallway, completely positioned myself right across from him. Close enough to be seen, far enough to look accidental. I pulled out my phone, pretending I was deeply invested in absolutely nothing while I waited for Then his son came out. A sweet-looking boy who ran straight into his arms. He hugged the boy, said something I couldn't hear, and just like that, they were gone. No glance in my direction. Not even an accidental eye contact. He vanished and I was left holding my phone like an idiot. I grabbed Anne and rushed outside, trying to see which direction they went, but the parking lot was already half empty. No trace of him, like I had imagined the whole thing. The next day I was late again, and the day after that, and the other day too. Suddenly, getting to aftercare pickup at a very specific time became my personal Olympics. My husband noticed before anyone else. "You're doing makeup every day now," he said, one evening, watching me put on mascara just to go pick up. "You know you don't need that, right? You're naturally beautiful." He meant it as a compliment, but it landed like a punch. I smiled, but inside something twisted. Him telling me that I don't need to make any effort to be beautiful made me feel sad and angry. Because I did need it. Not for him. Not for the world. For me. I didn't want to be just the mom who always looked fine. I wanted to feel like I was seen. Like someone could look at me and say, "Wow, she tried. She showed up." I wanted to feel like that woman again. The one I was before pregnancy, before laundry, before lunches with crusts cut off, and a calendar full of kid events and 0 dates. So every afternoon became a little secret game with myself. Will he be there? What time will he show up? What is he wearing today? Will he finally notice me? But the universe has a twisted sense of humor. On some days I'd arrive just before him, and he'd walk in after me, head down on his phone, passing right by without a word. Other days I'd get there after him and he'd already be inside, leaning against the wall, scrolling, untouchable. Sometimes we were in the same space with other moms and dads, all pretending we didn't notice each other. He barely looked at anyone. He just existed, like a walking distraction designed exclusively to ruin my focus. Day after day, I moved closer, timing my steps, but never close enough for something as simple as him holding the door open for me. After 15 days of this ridiculous dance, I gave up. No makeup, no cute top, no carefully chosen jeans. Just me, no lipstick, no mascara, wearing the most unsexy leggings I owned and an old t-shirt. That day, I'd gone for a run before pickup. I needed to put all that buzzing energy somewhere else before it ate me alive. So I ran hard, and for the first time in a long time, I felt my body doing something for me, not just for everyone else. I almost didn't go to pick up. I thought about texting a friend to grab an IV, but I went. And of course, that's the day he was there. He was standing at the door to the aftercare building as I walked up. He looked up, and this time he saw me. He stepped aside, held the door open, and those dark eyes flicked over my face, my hair, then down my body, taking in the running shoes, the flushed cheeks, the damp hair stuck to my neck. Running before getting the kids, he said with a little half smile. That's a good idea. My brain short-circuited. I could feel the heat rushing to my face again. Yes, it is, I blurted, way too fast, voice a little breathless. Smooth, Julia, very smooth. I saw the coordinator inside and muttered a quick hello, asking her to get in. Trying to sound normal. Out of the corner of my eye, I could feel him looking at me. At my butt, at my legs. On the way, my chest rose and fell as I tried to calm my breathing. I grabbed my phone like it was a shield. Pretended to check messages I didn't have. Anything to avoid him noticing that my whole body was craving him. Anne came running out. Hey baby, let's go. I need to do something, I said, a little too quickly. And I rushed out without looking back. The next few days, I did the opposite of what my heart wanted. I started picking up Anne 30 minutes earlier. I avoided the time I knew he usually came. I pretended my new hobby was punctuality. I thought that would solve things. It didn't. One afternoon, Anne came home with a colorful little envelope. A birthday invitation, she said, dropping it on the kitchen table. I opened it and read the name, David. Who's David? I asked. A new boy, she said. He's in aftercare too. The name registered in my mind like it mattered, but I couldn't place it. 2 weeks later, I was absolutely not in the mood to go to another kid's birthday. It was a Sunday and the party was at a park. A nice park, to be fair, with a big playground, but still, a birthday party on a Sunday should be illegal. I just want to sleep, I told my husband, and I don't want to talk to strangers about school lunches and screen time. He laughed. Come on, it's almost the end of summer. Anne loves that park. She'll remember this stuff when she's older. He was right, and I hated that. Fine, I sighed. I put on a simple but flattering dress, did my hair, and before we left, I told him, I'm filling my Stanley with beer. That's the only way I'm surviving small talk. We got to the park, and I recognized a few parents from school, the usual faces. I was walking toward the picnic tables when a man and a woman came up to us. Hi, the man said. Welcome. I'm Gabriel, David's father, and this is Tina. My heart dropped into my stomach. It was him, up close in daylight, not in the fluorescent haze of school hallways. Gabriel, David's father. The arms, the shoulders, the eyes. I nearly forgot my own name. Hi, I managed, forcing my voice to behave. I'm Julia, Anne's mom, and this is my husband, I added, introducing him with a name that suddenly felt too ordinary next to Gabriel. I could barely form a sentence around him. His magnetic presence scrambled my words, and it was infuriating, because now I was standing there looking at his face, and at the same time looking at his reality. There was a woman right beside him, his wife, presumably. Just like that, my platonic affair fantasy dropped dead. I reminded myself, Julia, this little secret daydream has brewed long enough. I was just having fun in my own head, but I would not get in trouble with a married man. This is called danger, not destiny. I rush over to chat with other parents, but every now and then, across balloons and picnic tables, our eyes collided again. He was talking with other dads, laughing lightly. I stood close enough to catch pieces of his story. He was from Colombia, raised in Chicago, and after years of dreaming about California, he'd finally landed a job in Palo Alto. This was his very first summer here, his first taste of the West Coast sun. Later, when I drifted toward the play area, watching the kids run in a whirlwind of sugar and freedom, I saw her again, Tina, taking pictures of the children. Are you liking the party? She asked, smiling. Yes, I said. It's really nice. I glanced over at David and asked, is he doing any sports at school yet? She laughed. Oh, I don't know, she said. I blinked, confused. How could a mother not know anything about her son? So I blurted out, you don't know? Oh no, I'm not his mom, she said casually. Just a friend helping Gabriel organize the party. Just like that, my carefully buried fantasy sat up again like it had never left. My mind started spinning all over again, and I found myself making a quiet plan to actually talk to him. I went back to the picnic tables, and there he was, alone now, clearing pizza boxes from the table. Perfect. I walked toward him, my heartbeat picking up with every step. ¿Hablas español? I asked, trying to sound confident. Even though my Spanish was questionable, he looked up at me surprised and delighted. Sí, claro, he said. Soy de Colombia. Sorry. I laughed embarrassed. Un poquito. That's mostly it. Duolingo was not a great teacher for me. He laughed too. A real laugh, warm and easy. The kind of laugh that makes you want to say something else just to hear it again. He started telling me about his mom, how she insisted they speak Spanish at home. How he was terrible in most classes in school, but got advantage in Spanish class, and how he only really cared about sports. I was fascinated. It wasn't just his body anymore. It was his energy, his stories, the way he told me about his childhood like we were old friends sitting at a bar. Instead of two parents at a kid's party, I was sipping his words like they were something forbidden and sweet. And then my husband appeared. "Finally, I found you," he said. "Are we leaving soon?" I wanted to say no. I wanted to say, "Actually, can you take Anne home? I'm going to stay here and possibly ruin my life." Instead, I swallowed that thought. "Yes, if you're ready, we can go," I said. We said our goodbyes. Gabriel shook my husband's hand with a strong, friendly grip, and then he turned to me. "In Colombia, we hug our friends," he said. He stepped in, his arm sliding around my back, his body close, and kissed my cheek. For a second, I let my hand run lightly along his back, feeling the firm muscles under his shirt. His scent hit me, clean, masculine, a hint of something warm and spicy. I wanted to bottle it and keep it, to pour it on my pillow, to drown in it, and then it was over. We walked away, and I replayed that hug in my mind the entire drive home. I don't know if my husband noticed anything. If he did, he didn't say, "And tell me, have you ever met someone who made your whole world shift for a second?" I read every comment. After the birthday, I started seeing Gabriel more at school. Sometimes we exchanged a few small words, a joke, a comment about the kids. He never crossed a line. He never flirted openly. If anything, he seemed to be very aware that I was a married woman, which only made me want more. Day after day, I fell deeper into my own head. I'd look into his eyes as if I could go inside and send him a message, telling him I was crazy about him, about his cologne, that he could come to my car. And I would kiss him as if we weren't in front of the school. What would happen if I just leaned in and whispered, "I want you"? If I asked him to meet me in my car or at some anonymous hotel far away from school pickup lines and lunchboxes? My baths after picking up Anne become longer and longer. It was a ritual, a private space where I could finally let my fantasies run wild without hurting anyone, where it was just me, my imagination, and the ghost of his touch. My friend Sarah noticed I was on another planet. "You're obsessed," she said one night, over wine. "You need an outlet that isn't him." She suggested I buy a toy, something to channel all that energy safely, to keep my marriage intact. "It's not cheating if it's in your head and in your bathtub," she joked. I was thirsty, starved even. I was obsessed, just waiting for the day to be over so I could slip into the bath and have so much fun with him in my mind. Not just for sex, but for being wanted, for feeling alive. I was finally feeling alive. Then came the talent show. My husband was out of town for work, so I went alone with I walked into the school auditorium and saw Gabriel immediately. It was like my eyes had a radar for him. He saw me and came over, slipping into the empty seat next to mine. "Where's your husband?" he asked. "Work trip," I said. "He's out of state." Gabriel looked at me, those dark eyes holding mine just a little too long. "You know what happens on those work trips, right?" he said softly. I smirked. "No, I don't. Can you explain?" He just smiled. A slow, knowing smile that showed his perfect white teeth. The kind of smile that says, "I know things, but I won't say them out loud." I melted into my chair. The show started. The kids were adorable, singing off key and waving at their parents. Anne and David were in the same class performance, standing just a few feet from each other, playing instruments and dancing. I tried to focus. I really did. But my body was hyper-aware of how close he was. The warmth of his arm near mine. The way our knees almost touched when we shifted in our seats. After the show, we stepped outside into the cool evening air. Parents were taking pictures. Kids were running in circles. "Do you want to grab something to eat?" he asked. "The kids must be hungry." I looked at Anne. She was already staring at us with hopeful eyes. "Can we, Mom, please?" Of course she wanted pizza. Of course. "Okay," I said. "Let's go." We ended up at a nearby pizza place with a few craft beers on tap. It felt almost too normal to be dangerous. 2 kids, 2 adults, shared slices, paper cups, napkins, laughter. I called my husband just to check in, maybe to soothe the guilt humming under my skin. He didn't answer. A few minutes later, he texted, "In a meeting, can't talk." I showed Gabriel the message. "I told you," he said. "What time is it in Vegas right now? I bet he's having more fun than you." The comment annoyed me and turned me on at the same time. He offered me a beer, then another. I relaxed. I laughed. I felt that lightness creep in, the one I hadn't felt in so long. The one that said, "You're not just a mom, you're still a woman." At one point, he leaned closer to me. Really close. Our kids were busy arguing over a game. The restaurant was loud enough to give us cover. My heart started pounding. I thought, he's going to kiss me, right here. In front of everyone, in front of our kids. He moved in until I could feel his breath against my cheek, my lips parting unconsciously, my body lifting toward him like a magnet. "You have mustard on your cheek," he whispered into my ear. I wanted to explode. I burst into laughter, loud and sudden, half hysteria, half relief. It was too much, all of it. "That's our cue to go," I said, still laughing. If I stayed one more minute around him, I knew I'd do something I couldn't take back. He looked concerned as we headed out. "Are you okay to drive?" he asked. "You had a couple of beers?" "I'm fine," I said. "We live close." He hesitated, then said, "I don't like you driving with an after drinking. I can drive your car back, and then I'll grab an Uber to get mine." It was a reasonable offer. Responsible, even. And honestly, it made me like him even more. "All right," I agreed. We drove back to my house. By the time we arrived, both kids were asleep in the back seat. He helped me carry them inside, gently lifting David first, then helping with an careful and soft, like he'd done it 1,000 times. Standing in my house with him there felt wrong. Like my walls were suddenly thinner. Like my secrets had followed me home. I could see exactly how close I was to the edge. If I took one step in the wrong direction, I'd fall. So I did the only thing I could think of. I called Sarah. "Come to my house," I whispered in the hallway. "Right now, please." She didn't ask questions. She could hear in my voice that I was in danger. 10 minutes later, she was at my door. Gabriel's Uber was late, so he stayed a little longer, talking in the living room while the kids slept on the couch. Sarah sat there like a chaperone sent by the universe. My heart was pounding the whole time, torn between wanting him to leave and wanting him not to. Finally, the Uber arrived. He said goodbye, thanked me, hugged me politely, and left. Later that night, my husband finally called. He told me the meeting had run late, that they had to wait for the big boss who wanted to eat first. That it had turned into this long, exhausting work thing and he didn't get the chance to leave the hotel. "Not fun in here," he assured. I believed him. He'd never given me a reason not to. But belief doesn't cancel desire. It just makes it feel more forbidden. After that night, I changed my strategy. I started picking up Anne 30 minutes before I knew Gabriel would be there. I avoided him like he was fire and I was dry paper. I told myself it was better this way. Safer, smarter. But fate doesn't care about our plans. About a month later, it got cold enough that running outside wasn't fun anymore. So I joined a gym. On a rainy afternoon, I walked in, scanned my card, and headed to the locker room. When I came out onto the floor, still adjusting my ponytail, I froze. He was there. Of course he was there. Of course the universe wasn't done with me. Wearing a fitted tank top, sweat shining on his skin, muscles working under every movement. He was doing something with weights, and he looked like a walking problem. I tried to pretend I hadn't seen him. I put my headphones in with no music playing just to have an excuse to ignore everyone. I did a quick workout, but my eyes kept drifting back to him. By the time I was done, I was sweaty, shaking, and not just from the exercises. I decided to leave quickly, head down, eyes on my phone. I stepped out into the parking lot, cold air hitting my damp skin, and walked toward my car. "Julia," I heard behind me. I stopped and turned around. "Hi," I replied, because what else do you say to the man you've been trying to avoid and fantasizing about at the same time? He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell that same intoxicating mix of clean sweat and warm cologne. He stepped slightly to the side, his body almost, but not quite touching mine, creating this electric little bubble around us. "I need to talk to you," he said quietly. "Please, come to my car for a minute." I should have said no. Instead, I followed him. His car was a Jaguar. Of course it was, sleek, dark, luxurious. I had never sat in one before. We got in. The rain started hitting the windshield harder, little rivers sliding down the glass. The windows fogging almost immediately from the temperature difference. He took a breath, like he'd been holding it for weeks. "I tried going to the school at different times," he said. eyes locked on mine. I kept hoping I'd run into you, but you were never there. I couldn't stop thinking about you. My heart dropped, then soared, then panicked, all at once. Gabriel, I started, but my voice failed me. He reached for my hand, slow and deliberate, giving me every chance to pull away. I didn't. He brought my hand to his lips and kissed it so gently, so slowly, my whole body lit up. I know you're married, he whispered. I know this is wrong, but I can't pretend I don't feel this. My voice trembled. I don't think this will end well, I said nervously. He smiled. No te preocupes, he murmured. Then he leaned in and kissed me. Soft at first, like he was testing the edge of something fragile. His lips moved against mine, unhurried but certain, tasting me like I was something to be savored, not devoured. I broke first, pressing closer, kissing him back harder, desperate and reckless. His mouth on mine felt like every fantasy I'd had all collided at once. Months of tension, of glances, of what-ifs, all of it crashed down in that one moment. Outside, the rain intensified, drumming against the car roof. Inside, our breaths grew louder, the windows fogging up completely now, turning the world outside into a blur. His hand cupped my face, then slid behind my neck, pulling me deeper into him. I felt his other hand on my waist, fingers pressing into my side, anchoring me and undoing me at the same time. I want more, he murmured, his voice low and rough. I want more of you. Time dissolved. There was only his mouth, his hands, my racing heart. He finally pulled back just enough to breathe. The windows were fully fogged now. No one could see in. No one knew where I was. And there, in that fogged-up Jaguar, with rain pouring down and my marriage sitting like a ghost between us, I realized, wanting more is exactly how people lose everything. My chest rose and fell, my pulse wild. My body screamed yes, my conscience whispered no, and my heart sat somewhere in between, shaking. It was just me, him, the rain, and the edge of a decision that could change everything. What should I do? If you are listening until here, tell me, what should I do? What would you do in my place? Tell me in the comments and subscribe so you don't miss more tales like this. His lips were still on mine when something inside me snapped. Julia, he said. I didn't let him finish. I opened the door, stepped into the cold air. I scrubbed my lips in the bathroom until they burned. And then I sat in the bathtub, hot water rising, steam filling the room, my heartbeat still echoing in my throat, and finally allowed myself to breathe. But here's the thing. Sitting there in that bathroom, in the quiet, my mind started to unravel what happened. Did it happen? Or did the kiss in the Jaguar merge with every fantasy I had built in my head? Did I step out of that car because I wanted to stay loyal? Or because I was afraid of wanting more? Did we cross the line in real life? Or only in my imagination? The kind that takes shape between hot water and cold tiles, and a heart that doesn't know which life it wants. The truth? Sometimes, I still don't know. Because even now, months later, sometimes when I'm in the shower, with the water hitting the back of my neck and my eyes closed, I feel the echo of that kiss, real or imagined, haunting or saving. I'm not sure which. Maybe nothing happened. Maybe everything did. Maybe I'll never admit it out loud. But every choice we make, even the ones that stay secret, changes us. And I am not the same woman I was before Gabriel. Tell me, where are you listening to this tale from? What do you think? Do you want to know more about how Gabriel feels? Please leave your comments and subscribe to help the channel grow.